Rabbi said we have a very big simcha of our family, a very huge simcha. I just want everybody to hold on to the chairs so they shouldn't jump out the window. Our Chaver Adaf, Michal Avram Chavin, became a chassan today. So he's engaged to a young lady who was never married before. Michal Avram, what's the Kala's name again?
Shira Eldon.
Shira Eldon. So Mazel Tov Michal Avram and Shira Eldon on becoming a chassan in Kala. We had a Rikida here earlier before, and their zivik should be Oila Yafa Zayin, and they should be Baina Bayis Nema B'Yisrael L'Shem L'Seferes. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov from the whole shir. I think that Marshall is going to be breaking out a special Frankfurter for you in your honor.
Garlic Polish.
What?
Garlic Polish.
Oh, he said garlic Polish.
Oh, but I like garlic too. But it's so tell him I'm going to hold him to that.
He said he's going to hold you to it.
They have a good beer.
He's got to watch out for bad breath.
Marshall said now that you're an engaged man, you got to watch out for bad breath.
That's true.
We want to welcome back Shalom Fogel. Shalom, we missed you very much. Welcome back to you. Here's a man that as soon as he comes back, he's right again with us. When you were away, Shalom, when you were away, we missed you. I see I have over here Harrison Kletzel, Jay Siegel, and up here we have Dr. Guy, Irving Fishbaum, Shimon Klein, Saba, Aaron Swade, Michal, Baruch Ian, Eddie Chazan, Marshall Castle, Shelley Zeitlin, Shalom Fogel, Dr. Block, Yitzi Fuchs, Mel Zachter, Menachem Umansky, Nachman Chapler, Moshe Lehman, Elia Schutman, Yitzi Muller, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Rabbi Kranz, Naftali Javelin. Here in Shul we have with us Berish Gesserman, Yisrael Kramer, Rabbi Avram Rezepkowitz, Michal Avram, Ruvain Shannon. Abe Arbach is now joining us, David Helfgott on Kol HaLashon. I want to say, before we start, they asked all the Magidei Shiurim to announce that today and tomorrow is the annual TorahAnytime.com fundraiser. Anyone who benefits from the TorahAnytime.com platform should certainly help them in their holy works. Irving Fishbaum has created a page to do just that. So if you are on our WhatsApp group, you could just donate on Irving's page, or I'm sure you could contact Irving and he could tell you how to do that. But TorahAnytime.com, of course, deserves everyone's support. We are dedicated by A.B. Spry for Nachas from the whole family, by Michal Avram, our Chassan Chassan Denan. We are starting over here, and by the way, later on, we will not learn the Mishnah Yomis again because I did it. I recorded it because of the Chak. But I will tell you that in the Mishnah Yomis, I also spoke a little bit, and I told a very remarkable story from Rav Margulius, a 101-year-old story about a case of Tchias HaMesim in the kever of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai in Meron from 1923. So make sure that you give a listen to that. We are holding over here by Amar Reb Yanai, the bottom line of Daf Pei Zayin Amud Beis. Amar Reb Yanai, Eina Tevel Mischayev B'Maiser. Tevel, of course, is untithed crops. It's called Tevel because Tevel is a corruption of Tovloi. It's no good because it's untithed. But Eina Tevel Mischayev B'Maiser. Tevel is not Chayev B'Maiser Ad Sheyera Pnei Abayis, until it sees the house. That means it's brought in through the main door of the house. Shenemar, because it says in the 4th and the 7th year, on the last day of Pesach, we say Vidui HaMaiser. At that time, we have to get rid of everything that we did not give the tithes. We have to destroy it from the house. So, Shenema bi'arti HaKodesh min habayis. I destroyed that which is holy from the house, which the Gemara deduces means that it's not binding to give Meiser until it's brought into the house. And we'll see further that it has to be brought in through the front door of the house, not through the rooftop, not through back doors. It has to be brought in through the front of the house. Now, Rabbi Yochanan adds, even if it's brought in through the main gate of your courtyard, into your courtyard, it's also chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, afilu chotzer, even the courtyard, kavas lemaiser, even the courtyard makes it chayiv and maiser. Shenemar va'ochlu b'sharecha, you will eat in your gates, v'saveyu, and be full. Says the Gemara, but Rabbi Yochanan, what does he do with bi'arti ha'kodesh min habayis? Rabbi Yochanan nami ha'ksiv min habayis. Amalach, so he'll tell you, well, what kind of courtyard? Only a courtyard that's mishtameres, only a courtyard with a good fence around it. Amalach chotzer dumya the bayis. Chotzer is similar to the house. Ma bayis ha-mishtamer, it's a protected area. Af chotzer, it's only kaveh and maiser if it's ha-mishtameres, if it's a protected area. Now, Rabbi Yanai, that says that you're only chayiv in the house, what does he do with the pasuk of bisharecha? Rabbi Yanai nami hoksiv bisharecha. Oh, he says that's coming to tell you that you're only chayiv if it's brought in through the main gate. That you bring it in through the main gate. If you brought it in from the rooftop, from a door through the attic, or from enclosures in the back, the law, you're not chayiv in meiser, even if though it was brought into the house. I made a bracha already. I will say, I did not mention this in the Mishnah Yomis, that for many people, the 33 days of Avelis are now over, and the period of Svira ends with Lag Ba'omer, the period of mourning, and the Gemara tells us that that's because the Talmidim stopped to die. So it was a great celebration that the Talmidim stopped to die. So everybody asks the obvious question, well, they stopped to die because they all died. There were none left. Why is that a celebration? It's like, it's like Marshall celebrating Lahavdil, that all the bourbon is gone. What kind of celebration is that? Right?
Well, don't scare me like that.
Right. What kind of celebration is that? Lahavdil, Elef Alfi, I love him. I'm not comparing the Heilige Talmidim Rebbe Kiva to bourbon, but what kind of celebration is that they stopped dying? They stopped dying because they died, every last one of them. It's a very big kasha. So the famous answer of the Pri Chodesh is it's not that we're celebrating they died, but we're celebrating that Rabbi Akiva found the 5 Talmidim in the Durham, in the south, and was able to rebuild Torah Shebal Peh from them. That's the Pri Chodesh's answer. I wanted to offer an alternate answer, and that is that it could have been that after the best ones of us died, maybe regular people would have started dying. It says, Mipnei hara nesa fasadik. Before evil, the righteous are swept away. Sometimes the righteous go first, that they shouldn't see the suffering of the rest. That's why many of the great tzaddikim died before the Holocaust started. They didn't have to see the Holocaust. So it could have been that after the 24,000 Talmidei Rebbe Kiva died, then regular people would start to die. And it was a simcha that regular people did not start to die. But anyway, we now ended this period of mourning, which is a good thing. And we look at the Gemara now further. Masiv Rabbi Chanina Chuzah. So Rabbi Chanina Chuzah asks that that you mean to tell me that there's no chiyuv of tithing until it gets into the house, until it gets into the courtyard, according to Rabbi Yochanan? It says kinafshecha, that the worker could eat like the owner. Kinafshecha kach nafshay shel payil. Ma nafshecha. Just like the owner, oichelu pater, he eats and he doesn't have to tithe. Af nafshay shel payil oichelu pater. Now that implies only a worker, but if a buyer would buy it, he would be chayiv. Halekeach chayiv. But the buyer, when he buys it, it would be chayiv. Now, doesn't that imply even if he buys it from the field? My lav besada, says the Gemara, no. Amra papa hacha b'te'enaha medes begina. We're talking about a fig tree that's standing in the garden, v'noifei noita l'chatzer, and its branch extends into the courtyard. Ulamandi amar l'bayis, and according to the opinion that it's only chayiv in the house, l'bayis, its branch went through a window and entered into the house. So the Gemara says, so you're telling me that the owner would be potter, but the buyer would be chayiv. But wait a second. If the branch extended into the courtyard and in the house, the owner should be chayiv too. Iyochi balabayis nami nechayiv. Says the Gemara, no, the owner, his mind is on where the tree is. The main thing by the owner is the tree, which produces everything. Balabayis einav b'te'einasai. The balabayis, he has eyes to where the main tree is, to where the fig tree is. But v'loikeach einav b'mikra. He has eyes on what he buys, and what he buys is from where the branch is. And therefore, since it's in the house or in the courtyard, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's chayiv. Says, no. You're making it sound that the buyer is chayiv midoraisa, that a buyer has to take tithes biblically. V'loikeach midoraisa mi mechayiv. A buyer is he chayiv biblically. V'atanya, we learned in the Brisa, mipnei ma chorvu chanoyes shel beis hinai. Why were the stores of Beis Hinai destroyed shalosh shanim kodim Yerushalayim? What sin did the stores of Beis Hinai do that they were destroyed 3 years before Yerushalayim? Nipnei shehemidu divrayim al divrei Torah, because they went with the strict letter of the law and they didn't follow the Rabbana. Shayu Aimim, because they said, look what it says in the Torah, Aser to aser v'achalta, you should tithe and then eat. You're only chayiv to tithe if you eat, not if you sell. V'loy meicher. Tfuas zaracha, the tfua that you planted, v'lo loikeach, and not buying. So the din of a buyer can't be learned out from kenafshecha. Because a buyer, midaraisa, is pater from giving tithes entirely. It's only a din d'Rabbanan. Ela mid'Rabbanan, it's only a din of Rabbanan. Ukra asmachta b'alma. And the reason why, now we know that the reason why when a buyer buys, he has to mid'Rabbanan take tithes, it's even if he buys from the field. Because the act of buying is kaiveya, like if you brought it into the house, midrabana. So then what do we do with elakanafshecha lamai asa? The Kedetanya, very interesting then. We know that when an animal works for us, we're not allowed to muzzle it. But what about if a worker works for us? Are we allowed to muzzle him? Now, of course, he's entitled to eat the grapes when he cuts them down. So if we muzzle him, then we're going to have to pay him for those grapes. But how do we know that there's no lav? It's still painful that he sees the grapes and he can't eat it. How do we know that there's no lav to muzzle a worker? So we know it from the fact that it says kenafshecha, like yourself. Ma nafshecha im chasamta. If you, the owner, muzzle yourself, you're potter. Af poyel, so also a worker, im chasamta potter. If you muzzle him, you're not over the lav of muzzling. There's a lav not to muzzle an animal. You're not over that lav. Now the Rishonim say you are mevatel the mitzvah saseh to give him the grapes. Im tavi bekerem reyecha. But you're not over the lav. So now, Mosiv Mar Zutra, Ezel Geironon Lemaisrais. When do we say that these species are chayiv in meiser? B'kishuim ubediluim, with cucumbers and gourds, misheyipaksu, when they lose their blossom. V'amar Rab Asi, what does it mean, misheyipaksu? Misheyinoto pika shaleh, when the blossoms fall off. My love, doesn't that mean misheyipaksu, once the blossoms fall off, afilu besada, even when they're in the field, even when in their field, they're already chayiv in ma'aser, even before they're brought into the house, or according to Rabbi Yochanan, when they're brought into the chotzer. Loi mishiyapaksu bebayis. It's only if it falls off in the house. So the Gemara says, then it shouldn't say ihachi mishiyapaksu when they fall off. It should say rather ad sheyapaksu bebayile. It should say until they fall off. In other words, not only when they're brought into the house, but they're not chayiv until the blossom falls off. So the Gemara says, well, there's a reason why it doesn't say ad sheyapaksu. Itana ad sheyapaksu havamina ad degamar lipikusayu. I would think it means until all of the blossoms fall off of this species, which is a much later stage. Kamashmon mishiyapaksu, it means mechias chilu pikusai, when their blossoms start to fall off. Masa Marzutra Breder Rav Nachman. So Marzutra, the son of Rav Nachman, asks, Garanoi lemaisa lechayvoi alav. It's stage for meiser to be chayiv mishum tevel, that if you don't tithe it, you're over tevel mishetigmar malachtan, when its work is finished. The ezel gemar malachtan, what's considered its work is finished? Meleches hachnasasan, when you gather it in. So the Gemara says, "My lav hachnasasan afilu besada." Doesn't that mean when it's gathered in a pile in the field? It says, "Loi hachnasasan lebayis." This is like the opinion in the house. Gathering it in the field, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it would be in the courtyard. Zel gemar malachtam. That's its completion. V'iba yesema kika amar Rabbi Yanai. When does Rabbi Yanai say? On Daf Pei Zayin Amar Aleph. When does Rabbi Yanai say that the shear is? Right, it's Rabbi Yanai. Let me just check that out. Yeah, when does Rabbi Yanai say that the shear is? When it sees the Pnei Abayis. When does he say that? Kikam Rabbi Yanai b'zeisim v'anovim. That's by olives and grapes. The labnei gorininu. They're not put in a pile. Aval chitin v'sa'arim, but wheat and barley, there it's going to be chayiv as soon as it's put in a pile. Gorin ksiv be'ed yabei, because it says reishis degoncha, right? So it says clearly. It says clearly by wheat. It says clearly by wheat, the pasuk of Reishis Degancha, that as soon as it gets into a pile, it's already chayiv. But by olives and grapes, which are not put in the pile, that's when it's chayiv in bringing it into the house. the verse that they quote is it says kadogon min hagoyron, like grain from the threshing floor, and it's called meiser digoncha, which is when it reaches the digun stage, when it's put in a pile. Okay. Now the Gemara says ashkechan odom b'mechuber. We find that a man is entitled to, if he's a worker, he's entitled to take when it's attached to the ground when it's finished, right? It says vel kel yechaloi sitain. You're not allowed to put it in your basket, but you could eat it at the time that they're putting it in the basket. So we know that when it's attached to the ground, the worker is allowed to take it. Vishar b'talosh. And we said that a shar is allowed to take it when it's detached, because it says loisach shem shar b'dishay, and threshing is done when it's detached. Adam b'talosh minala. How do we know that a man could also take that which is detached from the ground? Like we said, if he's working, if he's threshing, how do we know that if he's threshing, he's allowed to eat from it? So the Gemara says, well, kal v'chaymer mishar. Umashar she'ena oichel b'mechuber. Now here, this is a almost unheard of kind of drasha. It's really, this amud of a drasha is almost unique in Shas. Not that I'm an expert, but it's very unusual. As Tosfos and later Rashi is going to explain, that it's not true. We're going to learn that a shar also is allowed to eat when it works with something attached to the ground. But umar shar she'eino eichel b'mechuber, Tosfos says, means that mashar, that there's no source in the Torah that it eats from what's attached to the ground. Eichel b'talish, it eats from that which is detached. Adam she'eichel b'mechuber, a man where there's a source in the Torah that it eats mechuber, right? El kel yechaloi sitein, einoi din she'eichel b'talish. Now, I just want to refer you to the bottom Tosfos, all the way on the bottom of the Amud. Umashar she'einoi eichel b'mechuber. So Tosfos says, b'maskana darish t'shar eichel b'mechuber. However, v'hashta akati loy masik adaite. Tosfos doesn't say with that. Look at the bottom line. Well, let's see. I'll show you it in Rashi in a minute. So the Gemara says, but you can learn out from a shar, because a shar has restrictions. Because Mala shar shekenata mitzuva al chasimasa, we said that you're not allowed to muzzle it. Timer ba'adam, a man, we said you're allowed to muzzle him. Shiyata mitzuva al chasimasa. So the Gemara says, well, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to muzzle a man. That you're not mechuyev to keep him alive. There's no mitzvah of the chayachicha imach. Atam mitzvah al chasimasa. You're not allowed to muzzle him. Adam shatam mitzvah lachiyasai. You have to muzzle him. Eino din shatam mitzvah al chasimasa. Amar kra kinafshecha. It says kanafshecha, kanafshe shel payel. It's just like you're allowed to muzzle yourself. Manafshe im chasimase pater. You're allowed to muzzle yourself. Alf payel im chasimase pater. So the Gemara says, so Takan, how do you know that a man is allowed to partake even when he's working with stuff detached from the ground. Ve'ela adam betolish minalan. Amakra kama beis pamim. It says standing grain twice. If it's not needed when it's attached, because that we learned from El Kel Yechaloi Sitain, that even when a man is working with stuff that's not attached, he's allowed to eat. Rav Ami Amar Adam betolish lo yitzarech kra. We don't need a pasuk where for a man when it's detached. Ksiv ki savai bekerem reyacha. When you come into your friend's vineyard, you're allowed to eat. Now Miloy Askinan, isn't it talking about also shesachru lekasef when he's asking you to carry the grapes? So you see that he's allowed to eat even when it's detached from the ground. So now the Gemara says, so now the Gemara says, Shar b'mechuber minan. So this is why I told you earlier that a shar is allowed to eat when it's attached. So the Gemara says, Kal v'chaymer me adam, uma adam she'ena oichel b'talish. So here again, Rashi says, what do you mean Adam doesn't eat from talish? We just said it says kama twice, or we learned it out from kisava b'kerem reyecha, that he's allowed to eat from that which is detached. But Rashi says, again, the same shot, that it's not written beferish in the Torah. So according to, if you learn it out from a drasha of kama, or even if you learn out kisava b'kerem reyecha, that includes that which a porter, but it's not beferish in the Torah. Uma adam she'en oichel b'tarish beferish. Oichel b'mechuber sharsha oichel b'tarish. That's beferish in the Torah. Lo yisachzim shar b'dishay. So he's allowed to eat from threshing, which is detached. Einoi din she'oichel b'mechuber. It surely could eat when it's attached to the ground. Let's say it's working while it's still attached to the ground. It's threshing while it's still attached to the ground. So the Gemara says, well, you can learn out from Adam, because Mala Adam shekein Adam et Suvel Yaisei. You're responsible to keep him alive. Timer b'shoshi Adam et Suvel Yaisei. Says the Gemara, well, maybe we should make a kal v'chaymer that you should be mechuyev to keep a shar alive. V'yei shar mitzvah l'achiyosei, you should have to give tzedakah for a shar. Mikal v'chaymer, ma Adam she'atam et Suvel Chasimasei. That you're allowed to muzzle him. Atam et Suvel Yaisei, you have to keep him alive. Shar she'atam et Suvel Chasimasei, a shar that you're not allowed to muzzle. Einoi din she'atam et Suvel Yaisei, you should be mechuyev to keep him alive. You should keep your brother alive. You only have a mitzvah on your brother. No mitzvah stuck to a shar. So how do we know that a shar could eat the stuff even when he's working, when it's attached to the ground? The pasuk says re'echa beis pamim. So one re'echa is extra. If it's not needed when it's attached to the ground for a human, because that we know from the pasuk ve'el kel yechaloi sitain. Tneu inyan l'shar b'mechaber. It's used for shar when it's attached to the ground, that the shar is allowed to eat. Okay, Rabbi said we'll stop over here. We're now going to ask Michal Avram to get the green screen, and we're going to do a chak, a very special chak, I might add. And we again want to thank everybody. As you see, we're doing svira now about 10 to, so I would think that 10 to 9 is more of a regular time now this week to expect our start. And what else? Again, remember to dedicate to TorahAnytime.com for their major annual fundraiser, and have a wonderful evening.